Hey all, it's Matt, your average gamer. Today we've got my top 5 creative and fun builds in Elden Ring. As you move through the lands between, bosses and enemies will try to stop you at every opportunity. That's why it's important to have a solid build, to take on the challenges Souls games throw at us. Sometimes though, a build could be too easy. Today's video has the perfect mix of power and fun to keep you entertained until DLC. This is my top 5 fun and creative builds in Elden Ring, and these ones all have storied backgrounds as well. From some high damaging ones that could do a lot of bleed build up to a faith and intelligence build. I don't do too many of these that ended up turning out really well. We even took on Melania. That's going to be really entertaining and really all around a solid build. Definitely one you're going to want to try out. And we even got an assassin build that's really cool. That's going to be the first one coming up here. This is creative builds in Elden Ring. These ones are really fun. Definitely try these out. Let's get right into this one. First one is called the Bloodhound's Assassin. This utilizes Assassin's Gambit on a dagger in combination with switching to Bloodhound's Fang. This allows you to escape some of the toughest areas in the game. As you may know, getting through Consecrated Snowfield and Halleck Tree can be tough, but with a build like this, it's made a lot easier. Our buff from Assassin's Gambit will last 30 seconds, and it stays on when switching weapons. You could easily move past most enemies as long as you are not in a direct line of sight. The concept of switching weapons is to give yourself a stronger weapon for when it's time to take on bosses, something daggers could do but to a lesser degree. I'm really not a dagger person. Initially I had it on a dagger build, but I decided to switch to Bloodhound's Fang because it felt like it fit the assassin build well too. And we do have the invincibility frames and everything with Bloodhound's Fang fitting it well, and our assassin here obviously has a little bit of a backstory too, which we're going to get into right now. Unable to join the Black Knife Assassins being a male character, this assassin decided to join the Bloodhound's Knights and wields Bloodhound's Fang. Opting to prove that he's the best assassin in the lands between, he decided to take on some of the most challenging areas in the game, showing that he could easily sneak past the majority of enemies and achieve anything that he wanted to do. Being a cross between a Bloodhound Knight and Assassin gives our character a lot of power, and honestly this is a really awesome one to use. Bloodhound's Fang is a great quality weapon, and it fits our theme very well. It acts quickly while giving us some invincibility frames we could take advantage of. This is really helpful for not getting hit. You could actually use this combo with Assassin's Gambit to sneak up on enemies, including side bosses, and then unleash Bloodhound's Finesse, a deadly skill that has carried many players. This one is a must-try for those that like role-playing as an assassin. If you like an assassin build, this is a really good one because we are able to be basically completely silent, not really be caught by many enemies in the game, and we have an awesome weapon in Bloodhound's Fang that does a lot of damage and gives us those invincibility frames too. Let's jump into equipment and stats. After we show off our 2 different Ashes of War one time, we use that first and we can be pretty much invisible to a lot of enemies, then Bloodhound's Fang and Bloodflame Blade. And for equipment, we have Assassin's Gambit on a dagger, we have Bloodhound's Fang, we have any seal for buffs. You can check out our armor set there. We have a little bit of the Assassin set on. We have Green Turtle Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Dagger Talisman. We have the Shard of Alexander, Strength tier, Faith tier. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 26 Endurance, 40 Strength where we're two-handing, we have 60, 60 Dexterity, 25 Faith with the Faith tier. We're using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, Blood Flame Blade, and Blessing's Boon. Beyond the dark and twisted castle of Stormville lies Godrick the Grafted. While everyone has left to join a seemingly endless battle against the Tarnished, Godrick's right hand stayed close by. With a sword and shield, he stayed true to his name. Godrick's right hand has a particular style of fighting. While training at Stormville, this soldier learned about dexterity and strength, and more importantly, learned from the many occupants at the castle how to master the storm. Using a broadsword with Stormblade on it and a medium shield, this soldier is ready to take on the toughest of foes. This playstyle is focused on defense and keeping a little distance. Play smart with Stormblade when you have openings, and when bosses are about to hit you, put up your shield and brace for impact. This is a must-try for those that enjoy a sword and shield playstyle in the lands between, a simple yet effective option. And remember, Tarnished, this soldier knows all about the Storm Ashes of War, so pick any you like and run this as a quality build to become a true soldier of Godrick. So the big concept for this playstyle, exactly what you need to do, is when you're at a decent distance, probably at a mid-range, you're going to consistently use Stormblade, which does physical damage and scales with dexterity. Then when you get up close, you can hit with your sword, and if you're about to be hit, you could put up your shield, which has decent guard boost for the weight. Remember that this is a powerful build when utilized properly, and it allows for a lot of defense and a good amount of offense too. Sure, it's not going to be the most overpowered build in the game, it's a simple yet effective build, and it actually may lean towards the days of Dark Souls when we used the sword and shield, but all around it's a very reliable setup. In just a single try, the Twin Gargoyle boss fight would go down to this build, and you're consistently doing damage from a mid-range, and it's incredibly reliable too. This is a rune level 150 build, as are all of these, and all footage, as always, is on New Game Plus 7, currently Journey 36. Godrick's right hand here can handle almost any fight in the game with a simple sword and shield build. Now, you're not always going to be hitting directly with the sword and have that simple variety where you're just going to basically get in your light attacks and then defend. In this case, we have a good Ash of War for mid-range that does a fair bit of damage too. Whether you want to call him Soldier of Godrick or Godrick's right hand, which is the name I gave to this build, it's a very reliable sword and shield build that gives you a good mid-range option too. I recommend trying this one for sure. Let's jump into equipment. We have the broadsword with Stormblade on it, quality affinity. We have the brass shield, which is decent for guard boost, medium shield. You can check out the armor set there, part of Godrick's set. Green Turtle Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, Dragoncrest Great Shield Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Strength tier, and Faith tier. For stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 26 Endurance, 30 Strength, which is 45 when we're two-handing it, but in this case we're not going to be two-handing much with the shield, 60 Dexterity, 15 Faith, but 25 with the Faith tier. We are using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Blessing's Boon to buff this build. This is a solid one to try. Before the lands between got overrun by every type of evil entity, there was a king in the depths of the foggy snowfield. Having watched all of his men leave when things got bad, and while refusing to give up his throne, he began to rot. Finally able to leave after going insane, he rose above with a crown made of mushrooms. Adding in his rotten axe and cloak, the Rotten King has a harsh playstyle. This revolves around charging massive hits for rotten bleed damage. Using his roar increases his damage and alters his charged attacks, which the king can hit for massive damage. Crazy or not, the Rotten King is now ready to once again take the throne. This playstyle will give you quick bleed procs too. With the status effect multiplier on roars, which is 3 times on colossal weapons, you'll get bleed procs almost instantly on a lot of bosses in the game. The first 2 hits, by the way, were both bleed procs. This isn't a playstyle for the faint of heart, since the altered charge attacks are going to take a little bit of time to pull off, but when you do, you're going to be hitting for thousands of damage while almost instantly proccing rot and bleed to boot, which is an incredible, powerful option to wield with a roar build. Yeah, that colossal multiplier is really good. 3 times the status effect amount with the altered charge attacks. Let's jump into equipment. The Blood Rotten Great Axe with Braggart's Roar. We have a dagger for Golden Vow. We're using the Highlands Axe, which you could use for the passive. We have the Rotten Grave Cloak on, the Mushroom Crown, any seal for buffs. We have the Roar Medallion, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Kindred Rot's Exaltation, Axe Talisman, Spike Crack tier, and Strength tier. For stats, we have 60 Vigor, 14 Mind, 28 Endurance, 30 Strength, which is 45 when we two-hand. We have 40 Dexterity. We have 45 Arcane. We're only using Flame Grant Me Strength because we're also using the Golden Vow Ash of War. While all the knights in the lands between knew their role, there was one that didn't always fit in. Rarely wearing appropriate armor, this knight was more about having fun than jumping into battle. After failing to meet the standards of the other knights, he was banished from battling with his former allies. To prove himself, he took on a Misbegotten, a tough enemy that wields an iron greatsword. Defeating him in a tough battle, this banished knight now wields an iron greatsword, an honor that was lost by most knights. This playstyle focuses on wild strikes and quick bleed build-up. I'll show off another clip with an Ash of War that also fits this playstyle well. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Iron Greatsword in Blood Affinity with Wild Strikes. We're using Commander's Standard for this one. We have the Claw Mark Seal. You can check out our armor set there. We have Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Arsenal Charm +1, Rottenwing Sword Insignia, Shard of Alexander. We have the Thorny tier and the Green Burst Crystal tier as well. For stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 27 Endurance, 40 Strength. When we're two-handing it, we get to 60. We have 45 Arcane. We have 15 Faith, 15 Dexterity. And the only buffs we're going to be using for this build, for the Banished Knight, is the Flame Grant Me Strength buff and the Commander Standard buff, which will give you 20% more attack and defense for 30 seconds. We're also going to show off Spinning Slash here too. Also note, as we talked about, this is a Strength and Arcane build and can build up damage fast as well as bleed. This Banished Knight has nothing to worry about now, wielding one of the highest base damage weapons for its class in the entire game. Focus on dodging and attacking with fast Ashes of War for quick bleed buildup and good physical damage. That's the entire concept for this build. Mainly, it's just to get as much damage as you can, build up on those successive attacks, and get in some bleed procs too. So try out this Banished Knight playstyle if you're looking for some fun with strength and arcane. If you get a little bit bored of the jump attack bleed builds, this is a good one to try. Next up, we have the Firecaster, once a Pyromaster and always wanting to learn from Rhea Lucaria. While stuck at Mount Gelmir learning some basics from Rykard, the Firecaster wanted more power. Finally, he was approached by Sorcerer Sellen on a trip to Waypoint Ruins. Sellen taught the Firecaster how to utilize both his powerful pyro abilities as well as powerful sorceries. Sellen told him of a staff far below the depths of the capital, one that will allow him to utilize all of his knowledge together. After finding an alternative route to Deeproot Depths, the Firecaster found the Prince of Death's staff. Now able to fully utilize his abilities, having found the Golden Order seal on the Altless Plateau, he would go on to fight the most formidable foe, Malenia, to prove that he's the most powerful caster in the lands between. This playstyle focuses on massive fire damage, which includes Burno Flame and Giant's Flame Take Thee. Secondary to that, he uses Death's Poker to inflict Frostbite. This combination can be made even better by casting simple spells like Glintstone sorceries. The result is a pyro that could easily handle any kind of sorcery and incantation. This build has a lot of versatility and is a Faith Intelligence hybrid build. There's a lot you could do here, and you'll get around 280 scaling for the Prince of Death staff and 341 with the Golden Order seal with these stats. Ashes like Taker's Flame and the Moonlight Greatsword can be used to great effect, even turning this into an overpowered Faith and Intelligence build. I didn't really rank these, by the way. They're in no particular order, but this one is probably my favorite on the list overall because I enjoy mixing in Death's Poker with Burno Flame, and I like the idea of putting together spells, incantations, and powerful weapons like the Blasphemous Blade and Darkmoon Greatsword together. This can turn into a really powerful hybrid build. Even at rune level 150, there's a lot you could do with it. Having that 341 scaling, by the way, on the Golden Order seal is excellent. That's really high in terms of scaling, and that gives you a lot of versatility with that alone. The Prince of Death stat's going to be better at higher levels. Once you get to 60 Intelligence and 60 Faith, you'll have really good scaling with the Prince of Death staff. By the time you're at a really high level, if you go past the meta, past rune level 150, the Prince of Death staff becomes basically the best staff in the entire game. Keep in mind, if you're looking for versatility, this build could end up being perfect for you. You can inflict Frostbite, you could do magic damage, you could do fire damage, lightning, holy. You have pretty much everything at your disposal. You have a ton of versatility, a ton of different damage types, and a lot of power too. By the way, after the end of the fight with Malenia here, I'm going to show a couple clips of a couple more different things you could do, including the Darkmoon Greatsword and the Blasphemous Blade, and how with these exact stats you could still get solid damage using some of the best weapons in the game and also keep that versatility. Yeah, I ultimately ended up being surprised at how good Faith and Intelligence can be even at rune level 150. This build surprised me. There's a ton you could do with this. This is definitely one to try out if you're looking for a whole bunch of different things with the same stats setup. In a second here, we're going to jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know for this awesome build. After we bow, of course. Yeah, Malenia is always tough. On New Game Plus 7, she's got it combined around 50,000 HP, so it's a lot to get through. We're going to jump into equipment now. And for equipment, we have the Golden Order seal, we have Death's Poker, we have the Prince of Death's staff. We're using the Giant seal and Gravelstone seal for the passive boost. You can check out the armor set there. We have the Ritual Sword Talisman, Fire Scorpion Charm, Godfrey Icon, Shard of Alexander. We have the Flame tier and the Faith tier. Let's jump into stats for this one. And for our stats, we have 50 Intelligence. When we use the Faith tier, we have 45 Faith, we have 50 Vigor, 22 Mind, 26 Endurance, 20 Strength, 18 Dexterity. We're using Golden Vow, Hellish Aburi, Burno Flame, Glintstone Icecrag, Terra Magica, and if you can, Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike too. And now real quick I want to show off with the exact same stats, just throwing in the Magic Scorpion Charm for the Fire Scorpion Charm and the Magic tier for the Flame tier, we're able to get massive damage out of the Darkmoon Greatsword with pretty much the same setup, same stats and everything, only changing one talisman and one tier. Thing here, all footage is on New Game Plus 7. We're able to throw giant fireballs for massive damage, 3,500 there, and we can use the Blasphemous Blade to its full effect too. And this didn't change anything at all from the previous build. I believe it's the exact same setup: Ritual Sword Talisman, Fire Scorpion Charm, and Shard of Alexander. And even though I get beat up a little bit here, the Blasphemous Blade is consistently hitting for around 3,000 damage or so, which is solid. Radagon actually ended up going down in not too many uses of the Ash of War. We hit for 2,500 there. With the buffs, it's a little bit more, but generally speaking, between 2,500 and 3,500 is the amount you're going to get for every Taker's Flame Ash of War. Yeah, you can see Hal ran out by now. You could also throw giant fireballs for around 3,500 damage, which was pretty incredible. But overall, Blasphemous Blade, Dark Moon, all good with this build. Thanks for watching this one. I hope everybody enjoyed a little backstory on these characters. This was something I always wanted to try. If you're not subbed yet, DLC is just 6 weeks away. Now is the time to sub for awesome Elden Ring content. We'll be covering a ton of DLC, and honestly, I cannot wait. It's literally next month. Thanks for watching, and as always, catch you guys soon. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell button, and I will see everybody on the next video. And have a great day.